I'm Alex Larson, dietitian, Ironman finisher, and host of Endurance Eats, the podcast where we break down the science of endurance nutrition and turn it into clear, practical nutrition advice to revolutionize how you think about fueling your body. So grab a seat, or keep moving if you're out training, and let's get started. Did you know that masters athletes are defined by 35 and older? Apparently, I've been a masters athlete for a couple years now, and I didn't even realize it. I think I still have a little bit of denial to this fact, as it feels like it was not that long ago that I was a 27-year-old doing Ironman Wisconsin. Well, my friend, welcome back to the Endurance Eats podcast. Even if you're listening and you're younger than 35, I think you should stick around for this one, because we can't stop ourselves from aging, but we can better prepare ourselves for it. In this episode, we're tackling the unique nutrition needs of masters athletes who want to stay strong, lean, and energized for the long haul. From protecting muscle mass to supporting recovery and maintaining overall health, we'll dive into specific strategies to fuel your body through the decades. Whether you're a seasoned endurance athlete or you're new to the game, these evidence-based tips will help you crush your goals while supporting your longevity and well-being. In the world of endurance sports, age is just a number. I say that with confidence because I have worked with a lot of incredible masters athletes. There are amazing runners, cyclists, and triathletes in their 50s, 60s, even 70s and beyond, which is why this topic of nutrition for masters athletes is so important, because nutrition is a crucial component to giving you longevity in your sport. So let's first talk about some of the age-related changes that affect masters athletes. The first change is that our metabolism slows. As we age, it naturally decreases. I think most of us can agree with that we can't eat how we did in our 20s. And when the metabolism slows, we continue to eat the same way for many years. This is where that weight can kind of sneak on slowly. So if you're thinking, yep, I can't eat like I used to, that's normal. It's okay to mourn the loss of your metabolism from your 20s. But I promise you that you still can enjoy how you're eating even later on in life. Another change is that our muscle mass will decrease. The research has shown that starting as early as 30, adults can lose anywhere from 3 to 8% of our muscle mass per decade, and that rate will accelerate once you hit 60. So this can lead to decreases in strength, agility, mobility, and endurance performance if your muscle maintenance isn't prioritized. So to maintain, if not build more muscle, we need someone to be eating adequate protein and including some regular strength training, resistance training into their exercise regimen. Suggested protein targets for endurance athletes are 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So a 150-pound person, that's about 68 kilos in weight. You're looking at anywhere from 102 to 136 grams of protein daily to help maintain that muscle mass. In order to get this much protein, it's helpful to spread that protein consumption across the day, with meals including 20 to 30 plus grams of protein. That includes breakfast, so every meal, and snacks offering 15 to 20 grams. You can use a protein powder too. If you're finding just through diet alone you can't get enough protein, that little supplemental boost can be really helpful. And if you're not getting nearly enough protein right now, start slowly working on building that intake. You don't have to do it overnight, but if you can get yourself in the habit for the long term, it will pay off in spades. Getting enough protein will also benefit recovery. If you're noticing that you're not bouncing back from your workouts as well, you're struggling with muscle fatigue and soreness, increasing your protein can really help. Because as we age, our body becomes less efficient at repairing muscle damage and managing that inflammation after intense exercise. You hear it all across sports, like pro athletes talking about how they don't bounce back from events as quickly. Things are hurting more. So really prioritizing that recovery with protein can be really helpful. I had a triathlete a while back. He was in his 50s, and when I looked at his nutrition, we were at like a 30 to 40 gram gap of protein most days of the week. And when I offered some ideas to increase his protein intake, he took those ideas, he applied that to his day-to-day nutrition. And just the difference between the week of our first call to the following week when he made those changes, he was messaging me while he was on the bike trainer that Sunday. His long bike rides are always at the end of the week, and the week prior he could barely get through that long bike ride. And by the next week when he made those protein changes, he said the fatigue difference was significant. Like, he hardly had, his muscles and his legs felt so fresh for that long bike ride on Sunday. So it really can make a difference even within the matter of weeks, if not days. In addition to the protein, there are other areas where we can support recovery and help manage the stress that comes with endurance training. The first being just making sure that you're eating enough. Sitting here, I can think of, off the top of my head, at least a dozen athlete clients, both men and women, in their late 40s, early 50s, who I've worked with over the past few years, and they were in like an 800 to 1,000 calorie deficit. Now, this may not be you, so please don't immediately tomorrow start eating 1,000 more calories a day. But the point I'm wanting to make is that endurance training alone is already a lot of stress on the body. And when athletes are under fueling significantly long term, this adds an immense amount of additional stress to the body. And stress on the body causes hormones to deregulate. It suppresses our immune system. It causes poor sleep quality. It can impact our heart health. And it can definitely contribute to gains in body fat. Again, I don't want you just shoveling food into your mouth. I'm going to give 3 areas where I would start incorporating more nutrition. I'd start with focusing on the protein, making sure you're consistently getting enough in. I already gave that guideline of 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. The second area is fueling around your training. I had a distance runner she ran ultras, marathons. She was in her mid to late 40s. She was religiously under fueling her long runs. And finally, I got her to take in more fuel for an 18 miler she was doing. I was like, can you just humor me and take, I think it was around like 70 to 80 grams of carb an hour during that run. And she had not been previously taking anywhere near to that. And I'll never forget that message she sent me afterwards. It was just a core moment for her because she felt so incredibly different after that long run. She was blown away and couldn't believe that she had unnecessarily been suffering as a runner for decades. She wasn't exhausted. She wasn't completely whooped the rest of the day. She wasn't starving and raiding her kitchen pantry because she was frantically ravenous. She was hooked. She embraced the carbs. She was taking them in much more frequently at a much higher rate, and she really thrived as a runner after that. So I had to double and triple check how many carbs per hour you're taking in during your workouts, especially the longer ones. Are you at 40 grams of carb per hour? Are you at 60? Are you at 90? Are you taking in enough fuel before? I would go back to episode number 1 of this podcast as I'd walk through the latest recommendations in science in fueling your workouts with enough carbs. Even a 60 to 90 minute workout, you could be burning 500 plus calories. And while the objective isn't necessarily to replace calorie for calorie when fueling, if you only took in 160 calories, which is 40 grams of carb, and you're expending 500 plus, you're going to need additional energy to support recovering from that workout. That's a really big gap for your body to handle, especially when you're training 5-6 days a week, sometimes even doing 2 days. Cumulatively over time, that stress builds up and can cause some big problems. So again, double, triple check your fueling around your workout because this could be a really important gap to fill. The third area I'd look at is including some anti-inflammatory foods in your diet. Fruits, vegetables, beans, lentils, legumes, whole grains, omega-3 fats like from fatty fish, flaxseed, chia seeds. I'm not saying your entire diet needs to be vegetables and salmon, but balancing it within your meals and snacks can really help manage that stress that comes with the endurance athlete lifestyle. It could be as simple as adding a small handful of spinach to your morning smoothie. It's not cheating when you're pressing the easy button, it's smart. One of my bigger areas of concern, specifically for masters athletes, is hydration. Due to natural changes in body composition, it can reduce the water content in our body. As we age, our thirst sensation can get blunted. Certain medications can have a diuretic effect. So there's a few potential factors that can really increase your chances of dehydration, which is why I like to make it a top priority, especially as we get into the warmer months of the year, to have athletes do some sweat testing, understand their sweat rate, setting goals for how much fluid they need to consume per hour in their workouts, practicing that over and over so that when you get to race day, you're hydrating like a champ, you're performing well on all cylinders, and we're not having to deal with the repercussions of being dehydrated. Now, to the women listening and wondering if I'm going to cover anything regarding nutrition around menopause, this is a topic that deserves its own podcast episode. I want to be able to do it justice and discuss what we currently know in the research. So hang tight, ladies. I got you. In the meantime, though, all of the information that's shared in this episode is still very relevant and beneficial for you. And then lastly, I want to touch on 4 supplements I'd consider for masters athletes. And as a disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Please consult with your primary care provider on your own supplement regimen. But here we go. These are 4 ones that I really like for even myself and for endurance athletes in that masters athlete category. So vitamin D is for sure one. Vitamin D deficiencies is so incredibly common. We typically get vitamin D through sun exposure. It's found in very few foods. And for those that live in a more northern area where you don't see the sun very often, a supplement is going to be very important. Vitamin D is anti-inflammatory. It's essential for calcium absorption and bone health. Bone health is definitely another area of concern for aging athletes. And I am one that really doesn't like to take pills. I'm not a huge fan of having to take lots of pills each and every day. So I'm a big fan of the liquid vitamin D drops that you can put like into your beverages or into your food. They give you that supplemental source of vitamin D. And I will link my favorite vitamin D Thorn product in the show notes as well. If you're looking here in the US for a reputable supplement brand to purchase, their stuff is really great, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Omega-3s, I mentioned this nutrient earlier as it has those great anti-inflammatory properties. There's a lot of research on the many benefits of omega-3s: joint health, brain health, heart health. Ideally, I'd love for adults to be getting in 3 servings of fish a week. Salmon, mackerel, herring, tuna, sardines are some of the best sources of omega-3s. When you look at the redfish, like the pink and red fish, like the darker red it is, actually the richer in omega-3s it's going to be. If you're like me and also hate to take pills, especially the fish oil pills that will cause you to burp, they do make liquid omega-3s right now. They're great. They usually come in either like a lemon or a berry flavor. I like to mix it with like a small cup of water. It doesn't taste fishy at all. My picky kids have taken it too. They think it tastes great. So if you don't want to take those large fish oil pills, you can do more of that liquid omega-3s as well if you're, again, not getting a large or those 3 servings of fish a week. Iron, especially for our female athletes, or if you're plant-based, we see a lot of endurance athletes with low ferritin levels. That's your iron stores. If you want to get your ferritin level checked, I highly recommend doing that on an annual basis. You usually have to specifically request it with your doctor. I like to see a ferritin for sure above 30, but above 50 would be even better. I have shared this story before in other podcasts. When I was pregnant with my 3rd baby, I was about like 5-6 months pregnant, and I was feeling very tired, like unusually tired. Even though I was like pregnant with my 3rd, running a business and doing a million different things, I was like, this is like debilitating tiredness. And I knew I was eating fairly well. So I was going in to my OB. She was already going to draw blood. I was like, can you check a ferritin? And because they do a hemogram, is pretty standard. It's a cheap and very fast test. And when that ferritin test came back and my level was 7, which is very low, it explained a lot, but also after a month of supplementation, my ferritin level wasn't going up. So I ended up doing an IV, an iron IV right before I delivered. And it was a game changer for me to heal postpartum, to have some energy, to feel good. I was very, very thankful that I had those levels checked and we were able to do something about it. So it can very much also impact your athletic performance, your daily energy levels, your immune system, your ability to recover from injuries. And a supplement can be a really helpful way to increase your iron stores. If you're finding that you get it adequately through your diet, but your levels still aren't going up. Then the last supplement would actually be a creatine monohydrate. If you haven't already, I would go back to episode 2 with Dr. Scott Forbes. We talked in great detail about the latest research on creatine. I'm a fan of this supplement. I take it myself. It really helps with optimizing strength and performance. It assists with recovery and has many other benefits. It's very safe as long as you take the recommended dose. It's well studied. It's been researched for decades. There's thousands of studies. And I think masters athletes could really benefit from using a creatine monohydrate. All right, there you have it. Nutritional considerations for masters athletes. Good news is that it's never too late to make improvements to your nutrition. Getting older doesn't mean slowing down. By taking a smart, intentional approach to your nutrition, you can keep performing at a high level, feel stronger every day, and set the stage for a long and healthy life. Whether you're adding more protein to your meals, hydrating more consistently, or focusing on your post-workout recovery, every small step counts. Your best years are still ahead, my friend. Thank you again for joining me today on the Endurance Eats podcast. Make sure you leave a review, hit that follow button, and I will see you soon in the next episode.